Mon nom est Christophe Gans, je suis l'un des 3 réalisateurs du film Necronomicon et par politesse, nous allons parler avec Yuzna, qui est producteur du film et également réalisateur de l'un des 3 segments en anglais.
Thank you. It's very polite. I'm Brian Yuzna, and I was one of the co-conspirators of this film, along with Christophe and Samuel Hadida and Take Chise and a lot of others. Well, I really liked this title treatment. I thought that gave it a very kind of strong look. We tried like hell to come up with a great title sequence, and finally ended up not having one. But this was actually, I think this is great. The library for the 1930s Arkham, Massachusetts, or Providence, is actually a mausoleum. It's a cemetery in
downtown Los Angeles.
It's actually in Compton. It was a very dangerous area.
Yeah.
Very dangerous area.
Especially after the riot.
And this was this was the last thing we shot, and I had to try to drive that Model A Ford and take off my glasses and put fake ones on, and everybody made great fun of me.
Yeah. It's true that you play the driver. Right. You play the cab driver.
And I love Jeffrey Combs in this, playing H.P. Lovecraft, because we gave him a new chin and a new nose.
Yeah. It's very good makeup.
Very good.
Very good makeup.
And I think this is great because behind all those fake books are actually dead bodies, and it smelled like death in there.
You know, it's funny because recently I saw a movie shot by Jerry Lively, the same DP than you have on this film, and it was shot exactly in the same place.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, the movie
really?
is called Soul Keeper.
Soul Keeper,
yeah.
Well, they also
and this library seems like a good location for small budget.
Or this mausoleum.
Yes, exactly.
But they shot, I think, Phantasm 4 or something in this place, too. This is Tony Azito, the strange cult keeper of the keys. What I really like about this part of it, I really like the wraparound because it reminds me of an old radio drama, an old radio show, like The Shadow or The Whistler.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know why, but it gives me this feeling completely. The
Maybe
pace
also because
of
it's a period piece, you know?
It's period, and it's kind of the pace of telling the story and the style of the acting. It all just reminds me of listening to those old shows.
One of the strange things into the film is that the action take place in different periods.
Yeah.
And the most bizarre thing is that the wraparound set before some of the period described into the second and third segment.
But I think that's
kind of
perfect
bizarre.
because the Book of the Dead can do anything.
Yeah. So it's also a science fiction movie.
Right.
Very subtle one.
Right. But it's amazing how Jeffrey Combs, we actually gave him the nose and chin of H.P. Lovecraft based on a photograph of H.P. Lovecraft. And what's really amazing is how much it changed him. It really took away the Herbert West, which was my big fear was that he would look like Herbert West. Yeah. And instead he completely
Who made the makeup yet?
That was Screaming Mad George did the makeup
very
on
good
his.
Makeup.
Yeah, did a great job.
Amazing.
And I think there was a sequence here that we cut out of the movie, one of many, many.
Oh.
Because the head was supposed to turn in 2 directions at once to show us that they were very strange people.
Yeah.
Now here we've come onto the stage. After, when he goes up to the door, we're on the stage. And the reason he's so tight is because there's nothing on either side of the door.
I remember.
It's such a small
set.
The set. And now we're into Tony Tremblay's set. It's a very, very small set with a very, very wide lens.
Yeah.
And it was built so that it could roll,
yeah.
Except we never got to roll it.
And also you built it because you wanted some water under the crate that you can see on the floor.
Right.
I remember very well this set.
It's strange safe.
Safe, yes, with many, many different doors. You know. I give the idea of different door with each one with a different esoteric sign.
This is typical Jeffrey Combs acting.
What I like in the process of it film that everybody was giving IDs. You remember?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, we were not separated. You know, we were. You know, on the same set, giving some ideas.
Well, this was
maybe we can do that. Oh, yes, okay, let's do that. That was funny.
Yeah, well, that was really incredible too. Was that we were shooting all of these? Sometimes almost we were building one set while we were shooting the other, but not even in a different room. It was all in the same room.
Yeah, and you have to stop when people were shooting.
I remember.
A shot.
Sometimes our actress started
to bang
screaming
on the set. Yeah. Oh yeah.
The book, also designed by Tony Tremblay.
Tony Tremblay was the guy who designed Sam Raimi Army of Darkness.
Yeah,
we have to say it.
And I think he did a great job on this. He's got a great sense of what is the minimum you need to make it work. He knows what you can see through the lens and what's needed. And I don't know where these signs came from. Strange
I told
symbols.
you, I gave the idea. Oh. Okay, now we enter into my segment.
Now we go into the Drowned, which was actually based on Dagon, I think.
No. You gave me the idea to do the story from Rats in the Wall.
Oh, right, Rats in the Wall.
But I completely changed everything.
Oh, right, because at first we were doing Rats in the Walls. We had a whole script for Rats in the Walls.
And I didn't like it, and I decided to make much more like an homage to.
This is definitely
to Edgar Allan Poe. Old series by O.G. Corman. Yeah,
this is Corman Bava territory, and even Belinda Bauer acts just like the Pit and the Pendulum. And
exactly.
this peak where the miniature by your best friend David Sharp is in the same peak where they put the Pit and the Pendulum.
Yeah,
house.
But on the other side.
Yeah.
And same peak that we can see also at the beginning of Tales of Terror.
Yeah, Tales of Terror. They use the same thing all the time, and this is great. This is a great set, and had many different versions of this as well. Bruce Payne, Belinda Bauer.
Bruce Payne, I saw him into Passenger 57. He was very good in the part of the terrorist. That's a forced perspective.
Yeah, what I really love about your episode is that just one shot after another is a special shot. It's like the Night of the Hunter or something. There's so many forced perspective, mix of miniatures. Everything's almost a trick.
Yeah, I really wanted to make an old-fashioned horror film and something very classy. I didn't want to go right on the gore ground. I like gore, but I wanted something much more classy. Maybe because I'm a cinephile and I was coming to America to make my very first movie, and I was full of nostalgia about the genre, and it's why I decided to make something much more on the Edgar Allan Poe side than maybe on the Lovecraft side.
Right.
But I read a book about the influence of Edgar Allan Poe on the Lovecraft work, and I tried to use some of this very clear influence on each other. For me, also the problem with Lovecraft is that Lovecraft doesn't like female character.
No, there are none.
There was
no. You have to invent the female.
And I wanted female character. I wanted something romantic with 3 female characters, basically, in the film. And it's why I put the film on the Poe side. That was very clear. I like Belinda Bauer.
Yeah, she does a great
gorgeous,
job.
Absolutely gorgeous. She's such a nice woman, and she's so elegant.
I don't think this hotel likes you.
You came here with your clerk?
It's funny because I in my 2 next movie, Crying Freeman and Le Pacte des Loups, I pick the same type of woman with Yoko Shimada playing the Lady Anada in Crying Freeman and Monica Bellucci in Le Pacte des Loups. I like this type of woman, very dark and vamp. It's very old-fashioned. That's my favorite shot of my segment. The shot where Belinda is telling the story
you can
about
hear
the cave.
Under the
That's very Hitchcockian, the little track along the face of the girl. That's beautiful. I like that.
Sell this land is going to be worthless.
Undercurrent of sexual tension.
Oh yeah. You can look. I spend my time to shoot at her high heels shoes.
I know that shot went on forever.
And you like that? You like when I suggest that she had some sex with her assistant on the bed in the haunted house.
I think it's great, and I like her performance. I didn't think much of it while she was doing it, and until it was cut together, and I went and told her. I said, I didn't even know what you were doing. And when I saw it all put together, I thought, very nice. Very nice performance. And this is very Corman right here.
Oh, yeah.
See the picture.
That's Emma Delaporte.
It's a portrait of Denise Lewis.
She died quite
Beautiful,
well,
beautiful girl.
drowned in a shipwreck. All the gossip about the hotel.
Originally, in the first script, it was an old, fat guy.
Oh, that was showing her around.
Yeah, exactly. And I decided that it was much more interesting to have a beautiful girl.
I remember seeing the storyboards for it. He was very disgusted.
Oh yeah, it was like a fat version of Donald Pleasance, and but that's an old trick, if you are not very sure about a sequence, put a beautiful woman inside it, and you will see it will be much more interesting immediately. Black and white.
Yeah, this was a very complicated sequence at one time.
Poor man process. Of course, it was too expensive to break this car.
That's a miniature.
Yeah,
but look you can even see under there that there's no miniature underneath the car. It's just two little tubes. And here was Bruce Payne who came onto the set for you and then told you when you got there that he couldn't get his hair wet, even though in the script he was supposed to dive underwater to save the girl.
Yeah.
This is really disgusting.
Weird stuff.
This is the way the guy that was supposed to look that showed the house. Yeah. And this is terrible. This looks like The Nameless or something.
Yeah, this morgue came from an old Japanese movie named The Inferno. And this old Japanese was describing the hell according to the Buddhist, religion. And I took this idea of a morgue where, in fact, people are onto a big...
just floating around.
Into the formal. It's really disgusting. I don't know if people understand very well what I'm showing. Sometimes, my movie look like much more a nightmare without any logic than something, especially this morgue. I don't know if people say, "Oh, that's a morgue." People say, "What's that?"
maybe.
But we are into an horror movie, so we don't care.
And it's a flashback, and it's in black and white, so you accept a lot.
Say, what's that?
This is Fake Night. And now this is a great shot here, I think.
Oh, it's a shot where he closed the door. It was played by a little kid. Yeah, this one. Yeah.
And that's great. That's a little boy, because you wanted the door to be much bigger.
Yeah.
And it looks great. Really a cool look.
And what is funny is that the set was not so high, so each time you look at the ceiling, it's a miniature all the time. I like miniature.
Yeah, sometimes it looks more real than real.
Especially when you play with the light on it.
I think it's because you can control it so much.
Since by tonight I shall be no.
And now we go into getting to the
second
Richard
flashback.
Lynch, the Richard Lynch segment.
That's a real motif in my work. Flashback on flashback into flashback.
If I can't find redemption, at least there'll be oblivion.
Oh, that's an interesting shot.
Yeah, you did a great job on that shot. It's a stock shot.
It's a stock shot that we tainted, and that's an old stock shot from the Mayflower in a Spencer Tracy movie named Captain Courage. Yeah.
Well, I think that's also a motif in your work, because in Crying Freeman we also have a stock shot of an airplane.
Oh yeah, I like a stock shot. The guy who cry, who scream, "He's alive! He's alive!" you know, I saw him again into the 13 Warriors by John McTiernan, the Viking movie. He plays the Viking leader, Vladimir Kulich.
That's him.
He's amazing.
He's
alive! He has such a great voice, you know. And I was very happy to see him into the 13 Warrior. He's great. I love
Richard Lynch.
This guy has a lion face. Look at his face. You know, he's great, and he's such a nice man. You know, such a nice man. I like him. And you know what I like is was playing on the first degree. Very, you know, there is no irony into his way to play. That's great. That's pure genre. Look at him.
Why?
It's like a Shakespeare stage play. Suddenly, you know, he's
no
screaming to the
back.
sky. You know, I like that. That's my real European inspiration. You know, that's very Bava shot. You know, of the young boy lying on the table in black laces. Oh, I like that. Beautiful Denise Lewis, beautiful corpse.
Now this is very un-Lovecraft here,
Oh yeah.
because Lovecraft wouldn't think that burning a Bible would have anything to do with anything. He considers that it would just be another book to burn.
I betray
This is more Poe
Lovecraft
here.
in each shot.
This is more Edgar Allan Poe there.
Oh yeah. I like this shot. He's like an angel. You know, the light through his white shirt make him like wings. I'm like, look at his face. Amazing face.
Is no longer welcome in my home. Get out.
I have something against a religion, you know.
Yeah.
You saw Le Pacte des Loups, you know.
Yeah.
The bad guy is a priest. That comeback, you know, that's a comeback to my very roots inspiration. I love the shot of his bloody hand, you know, caressing the long hair of the dead girl. That's gothic.
Lisa and the Devils.
That's true. It looked like Lisa and the Devil. That's true.
This is a first version of the creatures, I think, in Shadow over Innsmouth.
Oh,
These are the.
I was thinking
this
very
is
hard
the
to
love.
that.
This
Yeah.
is the Lovecraft.
That you did with Dagon recently.
a whole
with Stuart
different
Gordon.
version, right?
And you took some some shot from my segment, you know, especially the tentacle coming out of the mouth that we are going to see in the next scene.
But not as well done. This is a great character here. And it looked really ridiculous without the lighting.
you remember.
When I saw that,
With all the
when I saw
shells.
that, I said, "Oh no!"
Yeah.
I said, "This is a disaster."
Oh, yeah.
And Tom Savini was doing magic tricks, and I was saying, "Tom, what?"
But with the
But
light.
it looks great.
Oh, it looked great. Yeah.
I think this is the only segment that actually uses the book as a central plot point.
Yeah.
Dun-dun-dun-dun. That's a great theme, I think, by Joe LaDuca.
You know,
He really gave a
yeah.
theme that you just could always remember.
Yeah. All the shots are moving. It was made on a shoestring, but I was using the crane as much as possible. I
Right.
remember.
Right.
I want the crane.
And I remember that when you were shooting, you would forget to call cut.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that's true.
and the first AD would be sitting there, and the shot would end, and he would look over to me, and he'd be moving with his hands, and I'd say, "We can't cut until Christophe says cut," and he'd be trying to get me to touch you or to do something, because the camera, and you'd be watching the shot, and it'd be rolling, and the camera would be rolling, and the crew would be looking, and you'd be completely engrossed in the shot, and finally you'd go, cut.
I was
everybody-
amazed. You know, each second, I was amazed to be there in California shooting a gothic movie into an hangar. You know, it was kind of a dream coming true. You know, the shot of the guy reflecting into the blood pool is come from Profondo Rosso, you know, by Dario Argento. It's a direct, clear homage.
This is great. I think this is real occult stuff.
That's Baba now. You have plenty of green light suddenly, and you have a young boy in black. Oh, that's a shot that I like. The shot of the 2 feet of the dead girl, you know. That's very morbid, very necrophilic. Look at that.
Her face hidden.
Yeah.
You've come back.
How could you leave us down there? Jethro.
Please help Mommy.
My son.
I think I was in love with Denise Lewis. I must confess that. I was completely fascinated by her beauty.
The fog!
Look at that, you know. And when I did the boy opening his eyes, you know, with green light into it, I was thinking to the Village of the Damned.
Oh, right.
You know, because
He does look like that.
oh yeah.
That was actually my son there in that second. That was the insert unit, and that was real stuff. That was very
I remember when
disgusting stuff. That
because I was
stank.
using real
It was all real
squid.
Yeah, it was
You
just
know,
awful.
it's
But this is great here. It's
Yeah.
a fake head, but it really works great to have an actual squid.
Yeah.
I mean, an octopus.
Octopus, a real one. You remember the smell on the
It's
set?
just awful.
And you remember that some technicians didn't want to play with dead animals. And they left the set because I was using real squid. You
Yeah.
know? And also when I did this weird stuff of the boy speaking with the squid into his mouth, you told me, oh, you're going to be the cover of Fangoria. It didn't happen, but you told me that.
What did they use for the cover? They must have used one of the images. I'm trying to remember. History repeats itself.
Yeah. That's also a motif from Edgar Allan Poe. The guy who repeats the same problem than his own ancestor.
Because it's in
you
your
know.
genes, and that's also what Lovecraft did with Shadow over Innsmouth. There's this feeling that destiny is in your genes. It's in the blood. Your destiny can't be avoided.
I like Bruce Payne. He's moving like Errol Flynn. You know, he's very classy in his movement. And when I was directing him, you know, I was directing him like a tango dancer. You know, you can see it. You know, he's moving very well, and he loved that. you know.
Yeah.
I remember his girlfriend was on the set, and she was, oh, my guy's handsome, you know. She was all love for him, you know. That's a nice man, Bruce Payne.
Yeah.
I like this Dutch angle on the strange green smoke coming out from under the bed. I think it's.
Now today, these tentacles would probably be done CG, and they would look terrible.
That's true.
They would look bad. This is backwards, a reverse with the smoke.
You can see that the smoke is not going in the right way. Uh-oh. Strange dream. Little Enigma. I have a special production story about this high-angle shot on him opening the portrait. You know, it's high-angle because Gary Schmoller, the line producer, was taking off all the furniture
Oh, right.
from the bedroom while
As you're
I was shooting,
right.
you know. This guy was taking off the bed and everything while I was shooting because he didn't want that I shoot
That
more
keep
into
more,
on
right.
this set. That's amazing.
He
So
said,
I
"We
made this
have to
high
control
angle.
it."
There is no more furniture on the set at that moment.
Well, there's a certain type of production manager or line producer that feel like if they could just get rid of the director,
Yeah.
the movie could be made properly.
Yeah, exactly.
It's very common. Huh?
I think it's very common in America. In France, nobody will do that.
Oh,
you know.
I've run into that in Spain.
Ah, okay.
I think it's people play the role they give them. You get the role and then you play it, you know. And they give them the role of you have to control the production, and the next thing you know, they take it to absurd extremes, and they forget that sometimes everything can't be reduced to a line on a budget.
Mm. That sequence of the dead girl coming
Maria Ford.
from the dead
Who's there?
to tempt the hero come right from the Japanese ghost story named Kaiden, the segment called the Snow Lady. It comes from there. Kaiden is one of my greatest influence on my work, especially the use of the color and the light, and of course some romantic theme about strange love between alive and dead people. Maria Ford was really a weird, strange girl.
She is odd, isn't she?
She was a stripper,
Yeah.
yeah, but with such a strange
But where did
personality.
you see her? Well, how did you know?
No,
of her?
I
Where-
cast her, but she was weird.
Did you know who she
and-
was before?
No, I
just
I
saw-
saw her in many striptease movies.
Oh, striptease movies.
Yeah, but she has a real strange personality. I think that she believes into magic and invisible things, you know.
Sorry, Clara.
She's very poetic in a sense, you know.
Forgive me.
Nice person. She's moving like a dancer, you can see that. I asked her to move like a dancer. And she was doing that very well. I remember on the set I was saying, okay, you're like a spider and he's like a fly. And you're
She's looking
going
like
to
a spider.
eat him. So you come very slowly.
Well, this is the
in.
most disgusting shot in your segment, right here.
Oh yeah, my Cthulhu fellatio shot, you know. Lovecraftian fellatio. Oh yeah. Everybody expects some interesting oral work, and suddenly something happened. Very, very weird.
And this is a backward shot, which really works
Yuck.
well.
And this shot was done also with a real squid.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I think what's great is that the animation is so much better just by going backwards than you can make either with a puppet or with a CG animation, or there's something that really looks like it's coming out and grabbing.
But remember, it was before the digital effects,
Oh,
and
I
we
know.
were always under the influence of The Thing by John Carpenter,
Mm-hmm.
where Rob Bottin was using a lot this reverse shot to make some of his mechanical.
But see, I
makeup
still
effects
think
very
that
alive.
stuff works so much better, because when I see the CG stuff today, I just go, wow, it's not going to be very long before we look back and these movies are going to be so dated, because it's just going to look it looks like animation in the middle of a movie.
Yeah, that's weird. I can explain what.
And
happened
this
now.
but this is actually a pretty good use of the CG here,
Yeah.
because it just does the job. At one time, there was a complete story under the hotel of tunnels and zombies and fighting, which Sammy kept trying to get us to do, and finally you said, no, we can't do it, it's over. In 10
because
days, forget it.
That's true that that's true. You recall me that. At one moment, we decided maybe to make a bigger segment of mine.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make something like a horrific Moby Dick, because the guy will come back into the house to kill Cthulhu. It was a big monster under the floor, and he will use some people who used to catch whales. That was the idea, you know. That was crazy.
I always tell everybody, I said, you know, there's different types of producers you can work with. And there's one type that's very common that tell you, it's like Gary Schmuller taking this furniture away.
Exactly.
They say, you know what? The money comes to here.
Yeah.
That's it. I don't care.
And Samuel is
it doesn't
different.
matter. That's it.
Yeah. And Samuel is different. He's a heading battle producer.
That's what I always tell people. I say, then you go to somebody like Sammy and you say, Sammy, we need something. We have a problem. We need something. He says, oh, what is it? What is it? I say, well, we have to have this shot. I talked to Christophe. We could have, you could do it for this, for X, or we could do it for 2X. It could cost double. We can get away with it, but maybe it'd be good to do twice as much. And Sammy goes, well, maybe we need 3 times as much. Is this enough? We need more. No, 1 zombie? No, we need 100 zombies.
Exactly.
Say, Sammy, it's not in the budget. Yeah, but the movie.
Exactly. In fact, Samuel loved when we had body count to the film. You know, he's very, very, very obsessed by the body count. I remember on Craig Freeman, he asked us to add this sequence where Craig Freeman is using these big guns, you know, with rockets, you know, and
so people can go flying out of the water.
Some Rambo action. That's great, you know. I like that. I like when the producer say, "Okay, if I give you $50,000.
How many more people can you kill?"
Exactly. That's good. That's real producer job.
So Jeffrey Combs is now writing in his little book.
Okay. So the second segment is done by a guy named Shu Kaneko. He was not very famous at that time, but he became famous because he is the director of the Free Gamera movie that many people, including myself, consider as the best kaiju eiga since the original Godzilla. You know, he made a great job on this trilogy about the giant turtle in Japan. And he did also a very good Japanese horror film named Crossfire recently, 2 years ago. So, and he was kind of like a fish out of water on this set.
Well, it was funny. He was different. Well, first of all, I think there was a great deal of hubris on my side on this whole thing, because I always have this opinion that I could take, that anybody can direct a movie. If they'll listen and let you help them, you can make a movie good. Anybody, because you have to understand what they want and try to help them understand it. I think with this, the idea was that we could take a Japanese director and put him in Hollywood, in LA, and help him make a movie. Well, Shu was not really speaking English very well, and he also has a personality which is not dynamic. It's a very calm personality.
I think he was like every Japanese director.
But more so because when I asked Taka, I said, we have a hard time understanding Shu. I think it's the language. Okay. Taka said, no, even Japanese people have a hard time understanding Shu.
Okay.
But Shu did a great thing for me, because I went to Tokyo and he took me to the what is it, the Nikatsu studio? Mm-hmm. And we went to see some shooting, and he began as a first AD, and he really learned how to make movies the same way somebody like Sergio Leone did, or I think a lot of the directors from the beginning of cinema, or at least the 30s and 40s, they began by helping directors.
Like
they
began,
they were assistants. They worked their way up to the point where they were a director. Today, a director comes in from film school and is already a genius, like you. You're already a genius when you hit the set. But Shu was really somebody who had worked in the cinema all his life. And I think when he got to LA, it was very tough for him to be working.
Yeah, it was very uncomfortable.
And he also was not used to having the pressure. The time you didn't know any better. Now you'd never do it, but at the time you had you didn't know any better to know that you can't do this in this time period. But Shu did, and I think it was a tough time for him. And then I think Taka came in and was actually handling more Shu's side of it. Yeah. He was the one who sat with him for the casting and planned the film with him. Dennis Christopher.
Dennis Christopher, every fan remember him because he was the hero of Fade to Black.
Yeah.
Very, very weird B-movie about a young fan who decided to kill people under the disguise of different
Hopalong Cassidy,
icon,
Dracula, and the director was Zimmerman, or what's his name? The director of Fade to Black.
Zimmerman.
I think so. I'm trying to remember because I worked with him on a project. We worked with Rick Fry, who was one of our creative consultants on this. We worked on a very strange kind of Area 51 type of film.
Yeah.
Now, this is also a story inside a story. And here, I think Take Chise shot this part. I think he was shooting second unit.
Yeah, remember, he was shooting all the sequence with the music instrument.
Mm-hmm. And Taka is really a very important and talented producer in Japan. One of the sort of new generation of Japanese producers.
He produced The Ring.
The Ring,
one of the best horror movies of the last years.
Absolutely, and not only that, he's actually quite a accomplished director. He directed the Tokyo, the Last Megalopolis. Yeah, which is quite a beautiful picture.
You know who this actress is?
Lily Perkins. She's
Diary
wonderful.
of Anne Frank.
Yeah, she's terrific.
She's that amazing actress from Diary of Anne Frank. She's a very, very strong actress. Also, somebody who's very famous today is Kazunori Ito. Kazunori Ito is the screenwriter of the second segment and is very well known among the manga fans because he wrote Pat Labor Theory.
Yeah.
And after this one, he wrote all the Free Gamera film for Shukaneko again, and he's one of the best Japanese screenwriter.
Yeah, it was a great. I was really thrilled when I went to meet Shu. I also met Kazunori Ito at the same time, and it was really great to see these people that I thought were very professional, very, very talented. It was a great experience. I always felt like Shu's segment had the best story. I thought it really had the best story of the three.
Completely.
And it was very clearly...
It was very clearly structured.
Yeah.
For example, my segment is just a pure series of impression. There is no real story. It's like a dream of a story because, as I said, the story is so huge that it's difficult to just make it alive on 29 minutes time, but it's true that the second segment is well structured.
No, I always felt with yours that I just wanted to see Belinda Bauer come back.
That's
that was my
That's
only.
True. Me too.
That was my, and I think that was only where because I think the narrative began with her, the tension between her and Bruce Payne, and because she started out as a fat, disgusting guy, she didn't make it to come back. And I think if she had come back for the battle and he had saved her from the monster, then we would have had a narrative.
Exactly.
But instead it became a kind of it's almost like a train of thought, kind of a free association.
Yeah, I have still the same problem for example, in the Pacte des Loups. The Pacte des Loups is built toward many different climax, and I must work on this.
Well, I think, the traditional narrative is that you finish the movie when the monster or the bad guy dies, and the good guy gets the girl, or he doesn't get the girl, but it's all Belinda. But she was beautiful. She should have come back next time. You have to use her again.
Yeah, I
think you should use her. She was great. I think most of all the editing of this was done by Chris Roth.
Oh yeah,
A
completely.
good buddy and collaborator.
Yeah,
The one
he
who suffers-
co-edited also Crying Freeman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was. He's always a pleasure to work with because he's a complete genre fanatic.
Yeah.
He knows it all. He
And you know
loves
that
it
he
all.
start on Killer Clown
Killer
from
Clowns
outer
from outer space.
That's his first job. What was very disturbing is the fact that he left immediately after the shooting.
Yeah.
So basically, we had the charge to edit
And
his
then we
segment.
sent it to him.
Yeah.
But that's also something that's more of a traditional, a pre-1960s kind of way of making films. The director wasn't always in charge of the editing. The director planned the movie. He shot the movie. Often the casting wasn't the director's choice. I think Elia Kazan won his first Academy Award and didn't cast the movie or edit the movie. This is, I think it's more of it's a different style of shooting, and this may be based on Shu's background. But I've seen it happen before. I know, for example, on Reanimator, Stewart made a first cut of the movie, and then Lee Percy cut the movie, and we communicated by videotape. And he made his comments based on the videotape.
But together, we like the editing experience.
I love editing.
That's
I love
like a
it.
second shooting.
Yeah, I can almost imagine being an editor, except that you never see the sun.
Yeah.
And I think you have to be outside
Yeah,
sometimes. And that's why I think directing and producing is great, because you get to do everything. But I love going into the little cave and looking at the magic box and seeing how the story completely changes. It's a complete, it's storytelling. A good editor is really a good storyteller. This is David Warner.
But we saw again in Titanic.
Yeah, well, he's
This
been
guy
in
can
everything.
jump from very low budget to very high
He
budget.
just works all the time.
He's not an easy person.
No,
he's
I
a
don't
great
think
actor,
so.
but not an easy person. I remember him always, on the defense. He didn't like to speak, and Millie Perkins was
Millie Perkins was
very, nice and gentle, and David Warner was much more like a cool, cold,
Well, I think
English guy.
In fact, he wasn't quite the casting you would imagine from Mr. Ito's script.
No.
The character from the script was a much more kind of dynamic, kind of complicated character.
And attractive,
Yeah.
too, I think.
So while Jerry Lively was shooting this for 10 days, Russ Brandt was preparing your movie.
Yeah, and you remember
And
why?
Tony Tremblay was was dressing this set while he was building your set.
And you remember why Russ Brandt became my DP? It's because my
Oh,
original
you brought a
DP
DP
from France.
Yeah, what was his name? I forget.
Don't say the
Oh,
name.
okay.
You must keep the name secret. But
That's right,
He
he
ran
came,
away.
he
He ran
came.
away. I came back to my home and I found a note. I go back to my wife. Really. I mean,
I didn't know
why-
you had such an intimate relationship with him.
Yeah. It was kind of very.
He left
close.
you for his wife?
He left me because he found that the schedule was crazy.
It was crazy.
Yeah,
It's
and
impossible.
he ran away. Without saying me anything. I remember, we were in the same house, and I came back one night, and I found a note on the table, and the guy was
says,
saying,
"I can't do this."
I go back to my wife. I remember, I will always remember this note. I go back to my wife. It's like I go back to mommy, And
I
I
can't
was
take it.
astonished. It was my first movie, and my DP was running away immediately.
Well, this is something that I think is kind of common in film. Is this idea of disaster, of failure? That's a fear that comes very big. I think you were very lucky because first of all you're slightly unbalanced, and secondly you didn't know. And I think that I was, because at that time we were preparing yours. We were running around. Remember we went out to the water park to look at the tide the swimming pool where they make waves to see if we could shoot the water sequence in there because we were afraid to put the car in the water on the beach. Finally, we never did.
No.
And it didn't matter.
And you remember why?
Because it would be pulled away or couldn't get the water wet? Or
It's because the car wreck was on a truck and the truck was lost on the freeway.
Right.
You know, and it was impossible in terms of schedule to come back to the beach to do this shot of the car under the waves. And during all the shooting, I was saying, I want my sunk car shot, and finally I did it with the model, the car model, the Barbie, and
so cool.
into the aquarium.
Well, you know, I told Stuart that when we were doing Dagon, I said, you know, don't worry. I said, you want to do the underwater stuff. Why worry about going under with the crew and make a miniature? And I showed him this miniature stuff. I said, you know, it looks better. It's more genre. It's more classic genre. We're not doing Jaws, you know. We're doing a different type of story.
Yeah, but you know, Brian, there is a different type of quality between a shot that you plan to do and a shot that you have to do, because if not, your cutting is not complete.
Well, that's funny.
That's
most of the shots I do are the ones I have to do. I don't know if I do many.
And really, I prefer, you know, into the result, I prefer the shot born from a compromise than the shot that I have planned to do. Most part of the time, shot born from a compromise. I have something inside, very
real,
real.
And I always tell people that. I said, don't ever
inspired.
complain about not having what you wanted, because you're never going to have what you wanted. It doesn't matter. But what's great is that when you have to compromise and when you have to limit and you have to make a last minute decision, what happens is it forces you to get rid of all the bullshit, and you find out what really you think is important. Because the minute you have to start getting rid of things, you start finding out what is truly important to you. You know, until then
you let down
want
the
everything.
fat and you go right to the bone.
You just say, you know what?
Exactly.
To live, I must have my heart. Forget my leg.
Exactly. What is important to say is that the movie basically has been completely reshot in terms of special effects. You can
A lot of this movie was completely reshot in terms of special effects.
Because it turns that the very first draft of the editing was not very convincing in terms of special effects. So we had to go back to the studio, remember, and we shot many different special effects shots.
Yeah, I always tell people it's the funny thing is that when you shoot movies like this for a very limited budget and you're trying to do so much, one of the things that you do is if you're doing special effects, is that you know that so many of them are not going to work. You just know it. And I always tell people when they say, oh, the effects guy screwed up, they didn't get it right, and I say, hey, it's called special effects because we're trying to do something that's not normal, and we don't have the money. Sure. And if you really budget them right, then they budget you to do it 3 times plus a contingency, because they know that it's not going to work and they're going to have to redo it. And I say, you know, when we do it, we use what we can get. If we can do something, if we can fix it, we fix it. But in fact, it's a percentage game with this type of film. So every time you come up with a great idea, you don't know if it's going to work or not. Sometimes it works beautifully.
Yeah, but here it was pretty intensive. For example, for the meltdown that we are going to see at the end of this segment, everything has been reshot by you.
Yeah, well, you know that was Screaming Mad George, who of course is very familiar with the Japanese producers and Shushu Kaneko, because he's Japanese. He's from Kyoto, and he's a real artist and always has great ideas. He's not the kind of guy you go to. I always work with George whenever I can, and he's not the guy you go to do typical gore effect or something. There's certain types of companies like K&B or somebody. You go because you know they're going to give you the good professional version of a certain type of effect. With George, you always go for a twisted idea. You go to get a concept. And I think
he was on a different agenda at that time, you remember?
Yeah.
He was into a band.
Oh, of course.
He was playing
he's
into
also,
a band.
Yeah, he's also a
hard
band.
rock. Yeah.
He does, it was called, he started in music because his name actually comes from a punk band he had called The Mad. And he was a big fan of Screaming Jay Hawkins.
Of course.
And his punk band was an art band in New York during the punk era. And then he called himself Screaming Mad George, kind of as a Dali-type character. He considers himself a surrealist, and he has a very strange aspect to him. But he's quite a great artist. And you see, when he did something like on Jeffrey Combs doing the chin and the nose, you say, that's very top-class makeup effects. And then when he starts doing strange stuff, when we do something like Society, it's letting George go crazy. When you try to get something in between, then you're going for a concept. And I think here his concept was that David Warner was having this. I'm trying to remember now. He was constantly putting this fluid in his system to keep him from rotting, because he's basically, his body's dead. It's like the case of M. Valdemar. And so George had the idea that when he melted, that in fact this stuff would pull his skin. It would come right out of his skin rather than the more traditional version.
Exactly.
And I think what happened was somehow we'd have to watch it again, watch the effect the way it was, to realize what didn't work about it. And once again, I always have to say, this is typical. This is not a failure. It's an experiment.
And what we have to say is that most of the special makeup effects have been redone by a guy named Bart Mixon, who really saved the film.
Who's the twin brother of Brett Mixon.
Brett Mixon.
And
Brett and Bart saves the film. For example, they redo entirely my monster at the end of my segment. The Cthulhu monster, like you can see it in the final result, come from the Bart Mixon workshop.
And also, Brett did what now is never done anymore, which is, what do you call it? Rotoscope.
Exactly.
And of course, nobody probably even knows what rotoscope is anymore, because it's too old. But rotoscope was before digital effects.
It
And
was
it
basically
meant that
paint some light right on the
it was taking
film.
animation on another cell. So when you see the lightning
or the pentagram
on the book,
coming,
or the pentagram
coming green.
This is all drawn by Brett Mixon. Today, of course, they would do it on the computer, and it would be way smoother. But there's something very, very genre too about this. To see this, it's like doing the backwards tentacles. It's like, doing the rubber effects. I mean, we look at rubber effects, and generally they look like rubber effects. But there's something. To me, it's almost like doing the expressionistic lighting, to do shadows where there shouldn't be any shadows, because that's the style of the movie. It's a storytelling style, and I think it fits. Here we come to the effect, right? To the big meltdown. This is a reveal that in fact the heat is going to kill him.
I lose my senses.
I remember.
And this is the beginning. Is George's
of the original meltdown?
concept.
Yeah, original meltdown. I remember you shooting that. I was shooting my squid vomit, and you were shooting.
Oh, that was
this meltdown. Just few meters from me.
Even in the insert shooting, the extra stuff, we did it all at once.
Oh, that's a new meltdown. Really disgusting. Oh my God.
Back to the classic meltdown.
You remember it was an anorexic girl.
Yeah,
they were using because she was so thin.
thin.
It was possible to put her into a makeup. And without having the big head or a large shoulder, you remember she was anorexic.
This is a giallo here. This is the zombie, This is Lamberto Bava. Or that's,
Yeah.
it's an Italian zombie.
Oh yeah, I like the last high. Boom. That's beautiful. That's real classic. So much goo. You know, the goo was a major element on this shooting. You know, goo everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, you were obsessed by goo at that period. You were telling me all the time, put some goo on your makeup. With goo, it's much better.
Well, I
like when it's full of goo. You know?
But you know, I've had to deal so many times with coming onto a set, and then you see the effect, and your heart falls, and the whole crew's standing by, and you can't show them your disappointment, and so you go, how do we make this work? And I think I learned some things from Mac Alberg, the DP of Reanimator and From Beyond, who's a genius at shooting these types of effects. But one of the things I found was that if you take the stuff that looks like crap, it looks terrible, looks totally fake, but if you put a lot of goo on it, you keep the lights changing,
and you have some reflection,
and then you put some smoke in the air, it looks great. And if you're Christophe, you move the camera too.
Yeah, I remember.
And this is what brings it to life.
Is awful.
It's awful. And you know what the terrible thing is all the effects guys want you to shoot it without colored light, without goo, without atmosphere, because they work so hard on it that what they see is something we don't see. And when you light it, what happens is it reflects the light so roughly, it looks terrible. But if you have goo, it gives life to the light.
Okay, so you must.
So goo is important.
Okay.
Yeah. Goo, blinking
Put
lights,
some goo
and
on your
smoke.
face, and you will look alive.
When I'm very old and I'm in my chair, I'm going to put goo.
Mr. Goo.
Dennis Christopher. I liked him.
Unfortunately, the air conditioning unit in this building is old.
He's very
and
actor
prone to break
studio.
down on hot
He's
days
always
such as this one.
twisted.
Yeah, look at him.
You know,
now.
he's playing a lot.
Such a
I mean,
tough
yeah. Oh yeah.
No, he should be with Richard Lynch in a scene.
Yeah. I mean, he's a real actor, if you see what I mean. That's a weird idea that they never. She's pregnant forever.
Yeah.
That's weird.
No, that's what Kazunori Ito brought to the Cool Air story of because Lovecraft's story was just revealing the truth that he's dead, his body's dead, but he's alive, and that's a horror. But I think Kazunori Ito brought the idea that it was much more twisted than that.
Okay, now we're entering into your part.
Right. And now this is interesting too, because in fact, while I was trying to take care of Shu and trying to take care of yours, all of a sudden I started completely rewriting my script because I got afraid, and I thought, Christophe's is so beautiful and so poetic, and Shu is also doing something period and a interesting story, and I said, I have to be dirty. I have to make something ugly and dirty and urban and today. And it was funny because I completely changed the whole idea of the story while we were preparing it, while we were shooting the movie. I don't think I've ever done that before.
Yeah, that's true.
But it was really I was very concerned that it wasn't going to have enough just something hardcore
gritty,
to it and something
stuff.
ugly in it. I don't know why, but I guess it was because I saw it as a mix of things. I just saw it as a mix of ideas, of elements. Signe,
so suddenly we jump into the future,
right? And she was somebody. It's funny because in fact I cast her because I thought she was believable as a cop. And finally, I wonder if she was believable as vulnerable. I think maybe she was too tough. Finally, she was so tough
Yeah, but
she was
she's
too tough.
Yeah, but as a police woman, she's
No, as a
very,
police woman, she's
yeah.
completely believable.
Oh yeah.
Complete. And this is Oba Babatunde, who was very. They didn't get along that well. Let's put it that way. As a matter of fact, Signe would get very. She was very aggressive, and I remember when we were shooting the episode with her, and she took it very seriously. Huh? She was committed, but she. I remember they'd be building another set while we were shooting, and she would yell at the crew.
No, they were not building another set.
Or they were taking it
They
down.
were taking off my
away your
furniture. You know, I remember.
That was amazing because we were shooting more than one sequence at one time in the same warehouse.
Oh yeah.
We had all the sets right next to each other. And this is a stunt by Gary Paul, who I really enjoy working with. He's a very, very easy stunt coordinator to work with.
That was shot outside the studio, I remember.
That was shot. That was actually shot at the old newspaper building downtown, where that now is just used for shooting.
Yeah.
And we actually shot some of the interiors there too.
That was a stage shot also.
Yeah.
All these
And this
shots.
stuff was done way back. Some of this was done.
Yeah. I remember
done
you took
as
the car
inserts.
on the set to do that.
We had-
Because what was funny is after I finished my segment, it was your segment shooting, and I was completely lost. That was the first time I was experiencing a rap, and I was completely lost. And I was wandering on the set, looking at you shooting that. You know, I was like a zombie. You know, I was in addiction.
right to be around the camera.
Yeah.
Repeat. Requesting backup and medical ASAP. Do you copy?
This was a very liberal adaptation of Lovecraft, definitely.
All the free segment.
But in a lot of ways, I think that the real core of the story that this all started from is still remained, which is this complete strange idea of not having a body, of just being your sense, not even having a connection to your sensory organs. It was called The Whisper in the Darkness. But as it
I
turned
remember
out,
very well the original short novel.
the original,
It was happening into a cabin in the woods.
and there's crab creatures
Exactly.
from the mountain.
Exactly.
And they're shooting people's brains up to outer space.
Exactly. Yeah. I love Lovecraft. Each 5 years I'm
And this
reading
is
all the work.
This is a filthy place to work. This was a air duct up, and we're shooting inside that air duct, and it's just filthy. Everything about this place was grimy and soot and filth. I don't think that there was. Oh yeah, the final, when they finally go underneath, it becomes a set. But this stuff was all just the ugliest, dirtiest place to be.
It looked like we are into a Resident Evil video game. You know? The girl with a gun running through, narrow corridor.
This is a tough gag by Gary Paul. I love that feeling of being suspended.
Help! Sarah!
Brent Friedman was the one who, I think he had a hand in writing or polishing the dialogue of all the stories, But in fact, this story was more his. I think he really wrote the script on this. I think on your episode, maybe he worked on some dialogue, and I think on Cool Air, he also polished some dialogue. But when it came to this this particular segment, is definitely the characters are Brent Friedman's characters, because he always writes these really absurd, kind of twisted kind of characters. I like Don Calfa as an actor.
He's a very close friend of Richard Lynch.
Yeah, that's right. And he was, I always liked him since I saw him in Return of the Living Dead by Dan O'Bannon, and he played the morgue guy, and I thought that was such a brilliant.
And I remember him from 10. From Black Edwards film,
really?
Where he's playing the guy who's organized orgy in front of the house of the hero of 10. He was always naked. With beautiful women.
Well, he's also a. I think the one thing that I was trying to get across in this story, which I don't know if it didn't really come through, was that. In fact, and this is very Lovecraft, which is that, in fact, under Los Angeles, we have ruins.
Yeah,
these
cave.
Old ruins.
Cave.
And these old ruins also are protecting where lives a big monster, a horrible monster underground. And this monster is actually, when it moves, we have an earthquake. And in fact, they end up going inside the monster. And I think that's kind of very Lovecraft, except that Lovecraft would have it in another dimension. But I like this. I always like this idea that underground or behind the wall, there's this incredible horror that we don't even know about. That we're just going to we live our lives without even knowing what danger we're in.
Yeah, it's funny to note that together we use the same theme of the entity lying under the ground,
Well, I think that's the Lovecraft part, perhaps.
That's what we love.
This is the very mild reference to the book. Oh, he's got the book.
Oh, yeah, we had to put the book somewhere.
But I like this. I like the character that Don Calfa and Judith Drake played. In fact, I had cast another actress and had to pay her and took Judith Drake because I thought she was much more effective. But I really like these two characters because they're just complete liars. It's like, that no matter what they say, this girl is completely finding that she can't trust anything.
They are like a figure of father and mommy, and bad father and bad mommy.
And I like when she tells her, she says, well, what about your husband? He says, well, I don't know him. I just met him last week. He says, what are you talking about? And she says, did you tell him, did he tell you that the aliens did it? And she says, what about the alien? He says, no, he's not an alien. He just helps them. I thought, oh, you know that you're in trouble now. I think poor Signe. Signe is actually I'm trying to remember if she's the girlfriend or the wife of what's the name of the director? He directed for Charlie Band's Zone Troopers. Paul DeMeo and Danny Bilson. Danny Bilson and Paul DeMeo are writers. They wrote Rocket Man for Disney.
Yeah.
And then Danny Bilson actually moved up to Vancouver right when we were leaving from Crying Freeman, and he lives there now. He was producing television series up there.
He's been down here since before the dinosaurs, if you can believe it. Aliens.
And this was shot right down in that building. This is a set built in that building.
That was very difficult for Tony Tremblay to make the three art directions at the same time.
To do so many different movies at once. Yeah. And these were almost all, they weren't simple. They weren't simple either. And to do three of them on a very low budget in a very short time, very tricky. And when we get to the to this ruins under the city, he could only build, I think there were 6 different faces. So then we had to just keep turning them to make another corridor.
I remember I loved the set.
I love
the
this
room.
type of thing.
Yeah.
The idea that underneath Los Angeles there's these ruins that nobody knows about. That others,
With a kind of
and that's
Aztec
kind of
inspiration.
yeah,
like
and that's kind of like at the Mountains of Madness or something, except instead of being up in the Arctic, it's right here. You know, you could imagine this under our feet now in Paris. That you know, thousands of years ago, there's been some civilizations that have.
It's true that you know we are doing this audio commentary in Paris on a very rainy day, because someday some people in Los Angeles will listen to us talking about Necronomicon, and we must say that we are doing that
in Paris.
In Paris. And you're coming from Barcelona.
That's right.
I'm living here.
And Taka was with us last night for dinner with Sammy, and he just came from Tokyo. So this still carries on the experiment of Necronomicon. I always thought this movie was an experiment. It was taking the elements and see what happens.
You know what interests me in Lovecraft? I think he became very, very cult and popular simply because he has anticipated on the acid culture.
Yeah.
You know, the fact, you know, all the thing about dreams and the belief into a huge entity, you know, thing like that. I think it's very like a post acid culture themes. And
see, I
and
really
when I
like
look at
this
your
section here.
Your segment, I think it's like a kind of you know strange, you know, almost you know acid inspiration. You know, you enter into this strange Indian tomb, you know, under Los Angeles, and you go to the truth. You know.
Yeah, I tried to show in the sculpture the Indians telling the story of the monster that you have to feed. And so that's why when he's the butcher, it's the butcher is, and he says, no, the butcher's not an alien because he's really the butcher. And what he's doing is just bringing to feed the monster just like the old Indians did.
What I like in your segment is very, you know, Freudian. You know, you're always sneaking into, you know, narrow place. You've plenty of organic goo,
and it's all about the conflict that a woman has about abortion.
Yeah,
that in fact what she's afraid of is that she's the butcher because she wants to have an abortion, and with the car wreck she's actually losing her child.
Exactly.
So in fact it's all about her being the butcher for wanting to kill her baby.
And the two figure of the father and the mummy represent the Puritan, almost a Puritan, you know, conflict with the, you know, the parents.
It's a very twisted idea.
It's very twisted.
But I like this idea. I always find that a lot of times I take the opposite side of an issue like that than I believe consciously for dramatic purposes. Like on the one hand, of course, I'm completely I have no question about my position on something like abortion, and yet in this movie I'm playing it as a slaughter of an innocent. I'm playing it as the horror of
I think that all this sequence of her going down into the pit, the bloody pit, is like a metaphor of the abortion.
Yeah, because now she's inside the monster.
Exactly.
And we see that the monsters carry inside their bellies like a child the life but unformed.
I remember that in England I read a critic reproaching to your film to be very conservative.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. It's like, in fact, I'm completely liberal on the issue, and yet I'm using the conservative. I'm playing the conservative side. This is strange because it's instinctual. But I think most people have this conflict. I think anybody who's involved with abortion has this conflict. No matter what you think about it, it's just the same conflict you have to eat a hamburger, to eat a cow. You say, let's go kill the cow now. It's very strong.
I think you're sinking. Compare the abortion to an hamburger. I think that you're sinking into your ambivalence. I don't want to follow you into this analysis. I don't want. I'm French. I'm very liberal. I'm sorry. I like the shot of the girl on the altar.
You know what's funny about this is that when I went, Todd Masters did the effects for this. He was a friend of Brent Friedman's, and he had done effects on Resurrected, that Dan O'Bannon movie.
Great film.
Yeah, that Brent Friedman wrote. And when I went to the shop to talk to him about making the creatures and to doing the effects for this segment, because we used many different effects companies. We didn't mention John Vulich. We didn't mention Optic Nerve. And Todd Masters did a lot of these effects. And I remember going there, and we were starting to do a body cast. This is a nice zombie section here, but this is a bit of the thing, the Whisper in the Dark, because he's just a puppet, and he actually exists in another place. But there was people who wouldn't work. I remember going to the effects house, and one guy working saw Todd. He says, "Oh, is this for Necronomicon?" And he said, "Yes." He says, "Okay, well, you can go work on the vampire movie." And I said, "What's the matter?" He says, "Well, I have some people who won't work on this movie because they think it's blasphemous and evil." And I thought, whoa. In Los Angeles, effects guys work horror movies, but they won't work on this movie because they say it's evil. Strange, huh?
Yeah.
But I like this kind of horror here. There's the puppeteer. This is loosely, but still, it's the Whisper in the Darkness. The idea that the creature is controlling.
What I like is it's truly grotesque. I mean, that the way this guy is moving, like an epileptic, and then you have this strange bat coming out of the body. It's
here
truly
he is
grotesque.
Speaking to her from inside.
Yeah, that's something that I always like into the genre, is the fact that when it became weird.
Well, it becomes very dreamlike and very, very.
Look at that.
But I remember directly wanting these creatures to be able to move. Now, this is where some CG effects could have helped a lot.
Oh, yes.
Because we couldn't move these things, and they were built out of and they were built out of big rubber, big, heavy rubber that couldn't be moved.
You took so much risk making this creature flying.
I know, it was so stupid.
Too much risk.
I always do that.
It was crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts, because you just when it doesn't work, you're really screwed.
Yeah.
It's the belly of the beast.
Remember the giant claw.
The giant.
It's difficult to make flying a monster.
It is. It's very difficult.
You're a specialist. You must know that.
I know, but I run it. But see, I'm always too positive. Every time I go into a movie and to make a movie and you have a low budget and no time, and I say, what am I going to do? Not do what I want to do because I don't have any money or time?
Oh, that's something that I really like. When you have this strange saw coming out of the mouth of the poor actress. That's weird.
No, this is the typical horror movie sequence where is it a dream? Am I a man dreaming I'm a butterfly, or a butterfly dreaming I'm a man?
Yeah. I like the painting. It's a strange painting into the hospital with part of the old set. Mm-hmm. That's good. No, I like that.
There's
really.
The father and mother.
Yeah, of course.
We thought we lost you.
What happened?
And it's nice also had the contrast with the nice white walls.
Been unconscious for several days now.
I had the most horrible nightmare.
And now we're back to the guilt
It's quite
theme.
normal with near-death experiences, such as yours. Your mind tries to rationalize your traumas to help you make sense of an irrational world.
Sarah, is there something you'd like to tell me about the accident? Something you want to get off?
Yeah, I thought about it often. I thought, I just shouldn't have had those damn things fly. I just wanted to have this feeling of being inside a big womb and having all these things coming out of the walls. I had this image at the beginning that these things would actually be the whole wall of the womb. The whole wall would be these things pressed together, and instead what you have is a heavy piece
I would
of
have
rubber.
played on the shadow, only on the shadow.
Yeah,
the sound and the shadow.
maybe that would have worked. But I like to see the monsters.
Of course.
I like to see the guys. They just should have perhaps been conceived of differently. But they are strange looking. They just don't move well.
What? He's in the next bed over. I thought you wanted that way.
And here comes an effect that...
That's obscene. That's an obscene shot. Look at the way you're framing... Ah! You're framing the mouth of this fat woman. Oh, God.
Horror. Oh, no. She thought she was free. But this is an effect that could have used a little more goo and blinking lights coming up. This has to be ridiculous. But see, you can see here where a little bit of goo and blinking lights would have helped a lot.
That's a baby.
It's inhumane, but we need it. Self-preservation, and it's all we can do.
Oh my God.
And this is this I really like
nice.
because
Very
that was
nice.
on-stage effect.
Yeah,
and I really like that
very
stuff.
operatic effect. Yeah, it's great.
Each shot carries it one step further to back to where she was.
I think it's like a milkshake. The monster is sucking the blood from a cut leg, like a milkshake. That's good,
And here goes the boot. I like the way Dan Kalfa makes his exit. He just has to get back to work now.
What the hell did I do with the keys to the note?
Oh my God.
It's like a comic book,
I think it will take many hours to analyze what you did. It's so bizarre.
It's definitely a nightmare for Sydney.
It's like you put in your segment all the blood which was lacking from the other segment.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah,
it's like I changed it completely, and I think it also ended up with not a narrative.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's more like the Drowned when it comes to narrative. It's just a series of images, whereas the Cool Air actually has a story.
Mr. Lovecraft.
So it's not finished.
No, we have to have the wraparound.
And we are going to see the shot which make you cry.
There was so many things were cut out of this. Huh? We tried many different things that didn't work. And once again, it came to monsters.
Put it back.
We must precise also that you did the third segment and also the wraparound.
Right,
as a director.
And it's different. Like I said, here's a John Buechler monster.
Oh yeah. John Buechler is very well known because he did all the Ghoulies film for Charles Band. With strange little, creature.
Oh, yeah. John actually did a version of the cat in Reanimator, because I always wanted the cat to be more. This is a good effect by Screaming Mad George, and it's all in the cutting. It's an effect.
I saw a movie which
cutting.
make exactly the same effect.
Yeah. Oh, now you would never do it that way.
Copy.
Yeah, now you would do it digitally. That's good.
I was on the set this day.
Poor Jeff.
It was really disgusting. It become really crazy.
It's just completely nuts.
It's go wild,
Well, this is a place where the spectacle should have taken over, but it didn't quite. And here's another place where rubber. See, this is where you can see that you need rubber, blinking lights, and smoke.
Oh yeah.
Because the light is is not forgiving.
It's a crying shot.
Now we have our big special effect.
Aye, aye, aye.
Consider your privileges revoked.
This is... Oof.
Voilà, that's a shot.
All the thought that went into
You
that.
know, it
All
looked
the
like an
different-
old Outer Limits episode. Suddenly you have this crazy bug-eyed monster everywhere, you know, with rubber mask, you know. Uh-oh. Oh my god.
But Jeffrey never loses his cool.
No.
He always plays. He's like Vincent Price. He always plays it straight.
Oh yeah.
Lovecraft! You don't know what you've done.
The mausoleum. It's amazing that we shot that in the middle of all these dead bodies.
Oh, you.
And that's me making my appearance. Although my voice is dubbed by one of the Walla group.
We can go now. Right? Take care of yourself, Mikey. Have a good night.
And the car is going away so slowly.
The car could
If you
hardly
have
move.
a monster, you know, running after you, you know, you have not to take this car. It's better to run on your legs.
It found me.
So I think it's appropriate that it has this kind of framing like Mystery Theater 2000. It kind of fits. And
The
the
movie-
very complicated credits here. Huh?
Yeah. So the movie became quite a success on video in America. It has been released during Halloween, and I remember, you know, it make big sale. You know, it was kind of a surprise.
Well, it's a movie that fans can like.
Yeah. I remember there was an editorial into Fangoria saying, "Oh, that's a true horror film with plenty of rubber and blood," you know, and it's true that.
I remember we went through so much trouble trying to think of an opening credit sequence, and we started adding up all the credits that had to be given, and we said, "Wow, it'll take 8 minutes to do the credits," so we put them at the end.
It was also the I think the last movie you did in America with kind of a normal budget, you know, after you know, it was like a changing into the industrial rules of what we can call
but
the
that
movie,
movie,
you know.
yeah, but
it
that
became
movie,
like much more like straight to video film, and because it explained why now you're producing movie in Europe, you know.
Yeah, well, this movie could never have been made by an American company anyway.
Yeah.
It's impossible because they just wouldn't even get it. But you're right, because once I think after that I did.
The dentist.
I think I did. Was it the? Oh, I came after trying Freeman. I went right into the dentist.
Yeah, I remember. I visited
right
you.
into the dentist.
Yeah,
and then
very good film.
And then then Progeny and the Dentist too, and then I went to Spain.
Yeah,
because then I could tell that they were just getting more and more. It was getting more and more tight.
Yeah.
In LA.
It's also because the international market was mutating very, very fast.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was kind of an opportunity to start on a movie like that for me, for example, because at that time the international market was still
on its ending.
You know, and willing this type of film.
Mm-hmm.
It's now everything changed. You know?
No, you
we
could
enter
never,
in a new area.
Yeah, the especially recently, I think the Scream movies just changed everything. There's a whole different idea. Although Jeepers Creepers goes back a little it's
And Dagon.
Yeah, Dagon.
Dagon.
Yeah, but
So
Dagon's
it's-
a Spanish movie. You have to
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah, but
this
it's-
is movies that are not.
The movie look like the last era of the
Definitely.
old-fashioned,
No,
movie.
Dagon is definitely a throwback. The thing is it's hard to tell whether the audience will accept this type of movie. With Jeepers Creepers, they seem to have accepted it, but Dagon is even much different from that because it's a real sort of classic style, the 70s type style movie, and you just don't know if. I know that the real fans love it, will love this type of movie, but you just don't know if the general 14 to 28-year-olds are going to respond.
It's why I think that the best news happening to the genre recently were the success of The Ring and The Others, which are, I think, two superb work of pure directing, without any special effects, without anything except, the work of the camera and the shadows, and the face of the actress. I think I think that there is a will into the audience to come back to something pure, like
well, they
these
want
two
a good
movies.
story told to them.
It's
in a
two
good
great
style.
story. Yeah.
I think that I think also there's a couple ways that movies work, and just before film, people went to the circus, and they went to the theater. And I think with film, we still do the circus in the theater. And the end
Especially
of
true with
Necronomicon
Necronomicon,
well,
it
the
looked
end
like a
of it is the
circus.
circus. Well, I think that's what effects are. That's what big explosions are. When you see a big effects movie or a big action movie, you're looking at a circus. And if the circus is good, and the circus has death-defying feats, it has danger, it has monsters, tigers, lions, it has clowns, it has pathos, it has people, beautiful women, beautiful men. It has all of this, and it's a circus, but it doesn't really have a narrative. It doesn't really tell a story, and you go to the theater to tell the story. But then the theater also, even Shakespeare brought out the bear during the story. So I think sometimes we have to understand that different movies are for different purposes and not mistaken the purpose that it's for. Sometimes the audience just wants to see the circus, but it better be the biggest explosions, the biggest muscular Rambo. It's got to be the best special effects, and that's the circus. And then we have the others, or we have the Ring, which is more telling the story.
That's true. So it was a little visit into the carnival of Necronomicon.
Absolutely. No, it's not a circus, it's a carnival. I think this is the difference.
Exactly.
We have the circus, we have the
miss the
theater,
circus, but we have the carnival.
We have the
Okay.
sideshow. And we had the alligator man and the chicken woman.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much.
Okay, I think you should close this in French to
Non, je pense que
Non.
c'est bien de finir en anglais. Non, c'est bien. Non, j'étais très content en tout cas de cette conversation. Ça nous a rappelé de bons souvenirs. Voilà,
y por
merci.
mi parte yo lo voy a acabar en español.
Merci à tous.